Good morning, and it's a lovely morning in paradise. We're in the southeast. Everything is so green. The grass is riz, spring is sprung, and the birdies are tweeting like mad. And there's a general air of positivity in the country looking towards the summer and the new spring and summer. Little sheepies are everywhere. So on the dentistry front, not really much at all. That's why I'm not. I mean, obviously, I don't. I mean, I can't. That sun's a bit bright, isn't it? I can't make a video every day because there isn't enough to say about dentistry, and I don't want to. You know, I've done some videos lately that have got some quite good views. I mean, for me, over 1,700 people watched my video on the sort of failures in the dental system and the reasons why it doesn't work, the reasons why it's been made not to work. So I think that was because it got a bit of interest, and so YouTube sort of pumped it up as a suggestion to a few people. So I'm not saying that they all sat down and assiduously watched it to the end and took notes, because nobody ever does that with a YouTube video. Most people watch the first 30 seconds and then they go on to the next thing. This is why TikTok is so popular, because the modern generation is not at all interested in long form analysis or in-depth analysis of anything. And no, I've got to admit, I mean, there's a certain amount of that in me as well. If I'm watching a YouTube video, I'm far more likely to watch it if it's about 20 minutes long than I am to watch it if it's an hour and 20 minutes long, unless it's a film. Talking of films, I've managed to get a hold of a copy of a film which I really liked, which was, it's an old film, 1981, called Diva, D-I-V-A. And don't buy it if you don't like opera music, because it's got a bit of opera music in it, but it's a fantastic film. So I haven't watched it yet. I've got great expectations. I remember it's one of those films that I always remember, that I really liked. They used to do series of cult films on Channel 4. There was that guy, Alex somebody or other, and every week he used to present a film that was a cult film, and that nobody had ever heard of, but nevertheless was really good. And I think it falls into that category. I don't, perhaps tell me in the comments, what's your, say, top 3 films? Then everybody's got top 3, I think. I think the one that I would probably put number 1 is a film called Brazil, directed by Terry Gilliam. And again, a lot of people won't ever have seen this. It sort of fits in with the genre that I like, which is science fiction, bit of fantasy, bit of dystopian, futurism, and 1984 type vision. A lot of the scenes that Gilliam came up with in that film were later copied. For example, the one where he's walking along the street and he gets covered in newspapers. That was used in adverts. And the sort of very, very small analog TVs being watched through the Fresnel lenses and stuff like that. The sort of the artwork was up there with the first Alien where the was it Geiger did the Alien universe and made it so compelling. You know, the actual, how can I put it? The sort of the setting of it was so, you know, enabled you to easily suspend belief. You could easily believe that the aliens were a civilization based on the set design. Is what I'm looking for. Anyway, yeah. So Brazil, I like. Gilliam, of course, was one of the original Monty Pythons, and the film was made under difficult circumstances, and then the studio then wouldn't release it. They said it was not, you know, I don't know whether they just didn't like it, or they said that it wasn't the right time for it, or they didn't want to go to all the expense of releasing what they thought was going to be a massive flop. And in the end, after a year or so, Gilliam had to resort to placing newspaper adverts in the Hollywood press saying, you know, such and such studios, when are you going to release my film, Brazil? And it worked in the end. It wasn't such a massive success as Blade Runner, for example, but it's the same sort of genre. I mean, again, I like Blade Runner. I'd say was one of my favourite films. I've watched it many times, and I can keep watching it. Every time I watch it, I see something new. I think that's the thing with films. Don't be afraid to watch them 2 or even 3 times, because every time you watch them, you'll notice something you didn't notice the first time. The first time, you're really just so swept up with the, you know, the plot and the story that you don't notice the nuance, and then eventually you will come to notice all the nuance. And in Blade Runner, there's a lot of nuance. Another film which I liked at the time, which I would probably, well, you know, for a long time it was my number 2 film, was a film called Excalibur. And Excalibur is, you know, obviously, as you'd expect, is a sort of a King Arthur and the Knights of the Round Table type escapade. But it's quite grand in its scale. You know, it's got a sort of that sort of sharp assaults on citadels and castles and things like that. And it's got quite a bit of it's got quite a good plot. But the reason why I like that was it was set to the Wagnerian. It had a Wagnerian theme. The music was all from Wagner's The Ring Cycle. And I love that. You know, I wouldn't never go to Beirut and sit through a Ring Cycle like Michael Portillo, but I would. But I do like a bit of Wagner, notwithstanding the Nazi overtones, you know. Although I suppose Wagner was not aware when he wrote the Valkyrie that it would be adopted by the Nazis. Well, perhaps he was. I don't know. He certainly was a German. He wrote it in the German nationalistic sense. So I suppose that's where the common thread was. But no, it's very, very stirring. I like that part of German what's the word? National identity. In the same way as we have Land of Hope and Glory and stuff like that. You know, I mean, it's the French have La Marseillaise, and well, you've got to have a bit of national music, haven't you? And for the Germans, I think it's Wagner. But anyway, it was set to a film quite well, in the same way as the Dam Busters March was used in the film to really, really good effect, because the pictures complemented the music. And in the same way, in Excalibur, the Arthurian legend and story complemented the Wagnerian music. So I'll certainly put that up there with one of my favourite films of all time. And then Blade Runner, as I say, of course, and then the Blade Runner sequel, I think it was 2035 or something. They always make the mistake of setting these in the near future, the medium future, which I think is a mistake. Because time moves along faster than you think. When I was a lad, we studied Orwell's 1984, and this was in the 60s and the 70s. Let's say I was 15 at the time, so it would have been about 74. And then 1984, that especially when you're 15, it feels like an age away, you know. But 1984 came and went. And I think the fact that it came and went without Orwell's vision sort of diminished the book a bit. It was a bit like a Nostradamus prediction that had been, you know, or something by the Branch Davidians, where they said the world's going to end next Thursday, and then they faced the realization that they're going to have to think of something to do on Friday. So 1984, I think if he'd called it 2084, it might have been better. But I think it arose out of the war, and you know, it was more of a lesson to the current generation than, you know, it's too easy to ignore, isn't it? If you called it 2084, you could say, well, that's really nobody who's on Earth is going to be alive when this happens, and so it's the future generation's problem. It's not really, you know, relevant to, and he wanted to make it relevant to society that read it. So, and I think the Blade Runner 2035 or whenever it's very difficult to anticipate the world being like that in 2035. I hope it is 2035. Because, you know, short of global thermonuclear war, and even then the whole place would be so radioactive that really we wouldn't be living in the way that's depicted. That's more of a global runaway global thermal warming scenario than anything, you know, and massive worldwide crop failure and stuff like that. So, but again, it's good, and one of the very few films I think which has been a good sequel. Godfather 2 is always quoted as the sequel to the Godfather 1 as being as good as, if not better. And I think the second Blade Runner, although we had to wait decades for it, I think is every bit as good as the original. It's not, how can I put it? It's very difficult for a film to be as good as the original because it never has the initial impact, the first impression that you get. You know more or less where you're going. And so the second one is more a chance, I think, for the writers and directors to do something which is an improvement on the first one, insofar as it fills in a lot of the questions which the first one left hanging, and develops a lot of the themes which the first one will have developed originally and uniquely and creatively. In other words, you can do the same thing again but better, because you know what people found so fantastic about it. So I'm watching a lot of old telly on YouTube, a lot of the old channels like Classic British Telly or ITV Drama. They're showing stuff that I watched when I was like a young man in my 20s. And I'm really enjoying it, you know. Always had a bit of a soft spot for Barbara Flynn, as most men did in the 70s and the 80s. And so I'm watching the Beiderbecke Affair. And now they've put on the second series, which is the Beiderbecke Tapes. She's been in a lot of stuff that I really enjoyed. She was Cracker's wife in Cracker. Cracker's now on YouTube. If you have no, I mean, if you want to watch crime fiction, Jimmy McGovern's Cracker is the most amazing program. It's like, if you're a fan of The Sopranos, then you've got to watch Cracker. It's sort of British equivalent. I'd say with a better script and better acting, certainly Hagrid cut his teeth on that series. And, you can't fail but have a soft spot for Pen Halligan. It's, I forget her name, Geraldine Slater, is it, or something? I forget. Anyway, it's an excellent series, and that's a bit of must-watch telly. But yeah, sticking to films, I don't know. I mean, all the original ones. The first Superman film with Christopher Reeves, that was good. That was laugh. It was a comedy. The original Ghostbusters. They don't seem to be quite so creative these days. My problem with films is that I don't really get on with American humor. So, I found the British Office series funny, but not the American one. And anything with Steve Martin in it, I just turn straight off, because I just don't appreciate the humor. It's just not. I just don't. It's American humor. I mean, and with respect to all Americans, the Americans are dumb. I've been to America a few times, and dumb is the one word I brought back through customs every single time. And that's why I won't go there again. I will not go there again. I just worry that something dumb is going to happen, and I'm going to end up, I don't know, in jail or shot or worse. I just don't know. So go over there at your own risk. That's all I can say. And while you're at it, I would think twice about taking on any patients in the UK who are American citizens. And that's for legal reasons. The American citizens America insists on worldwide jurisdiction over its citizens. And that means, for example, you can take on an American, you can do what do you want me to do? Honestly, I'm going to stop trying to slow down for these people, because they're dumb around here as well. I mean, look at the size of this thing on the left here. This is going up. This is not a temporary structure. There's dumbness everywhere. There's pockets of dumbness in the UK, but general dumbness in America. And pockets of intellectuals. Yeah, so you can do a route filling for someone, and find out they've got an American passport, and then you'll end up getting sued in a court which is in America, in, I don't know, New Jersey or North Dakota or somewhere, and you'll get extradited to America to stand trial, because the UK extradites its citizens to America, unlike the Americans, who do not extradite their citizens to the UK, as we all know. And Sekulis knows, to her benefit, after killing poor old Harry on his motorcycle. And she's sitting there in America, fat, dumb, and happy, protected by the American state. Whereas anybody who does anything in the UK can be sued for it in America, and he's extradited over there too. Sweet. So that's a little loophole. I think I probably mentioned that before, just in case you didn't know it. I just have be very, very careful about taking on American citizens. I would probably not treat an American citizen. I probably wouldn't. It doesn't make any difference to me. It's not like I'm just outside the American embassy or anything. So if someone comes in and they've got an American accent, I would ask them if they're an American citizen and then politely decline to. But that upsets them because they don't know that. They don't know that, that they've got this right to sue you in any court in America. And it upsets them to find that out. And it also upsets them to find out that might mean that they're excluded from treatment in this country. Especially if they're a permanent resident in this country, but they haven't renounced their American citizenship. Anyway, nice to talk to you. I'll see you soon. Bye.